Hey there, pirates. Welcome aboard the Anime No Me channel. Finally, we will have the ultimate moment of Luffy facing Akainu. The moment when he brings down the admiral who took his brother's life while trying to kill the Straw Hat Pirate. And now, you're going to understand this confrontation. I hope for your support to help our crew win, and to do so, you just need to click the thumbs up button, leave a like, and subscribe to the channel. By doing this, you will win an incredible devil fruit, so just comment which fruit you want. Guys, to understand what a possible clash between Luffy and Akainu would look like from the perspective of the current events in the manga, we first need to look at the massive gap between the Luffy who cried at Marineford and the current Yonko who laughs in the middle of chaos on Egghead. The idea of humiliation here isn't just about raw strength, but about the complete collapse of the ideology of absolute justice that Akainu represents. When Luffy awakened Gear 5, he didn't just gain new attacks, he gained the ability to turn reality itself into a cruel joke for his enemies. For a rigid, severe man driven by hatred like Sakazuki, facing someone who fights while laughing and turns magma into rubber or smoke is the ultimate defeat long before any physical knockout. Ace's death is the emotional fuel for this fight, but the way Luffy deals with it now is what sets the tone. He isn't just seeking revenge in an eye for an eye sense, he's seeking to free the world from the fear that the Fleet Admiral imposed. When we analyzed Luffy's journey in Wano, we saw that he learned advanced armament haki, Ryuo, specifically to hurt things that can't normally be touched, which is the perfect counter to Akainu's magma. In the past, Sakazuki's heat was absolute, burning even Ace's fire due to the hierarchy of devil fruits, but now, with advanced Conqueror's haki coating his attacks, Luffy doesn't even need to touch the lava to cause devastating internal damage. Imagine the scene. Akainu launches a great eruption, expecting to melt everything in his path, and Luffy simply bats it away like a party balloon, laughing as the drums of liberation echo. That's the essence of the humiliation the story is setting up. This isn't an even fight where both walk away bloodied. It's the moment when the red dog realizes that his fiery claws can't wound freedom itself. The visual contrast between Nika's ethereal white and the dark, heavy red of magma creates a narrative where light is literally swallowing the Marine's bureaucratic darkness. Akainu has always operated on the belief that order must be maintained through fear and the ruthless elimination of evil. When he comes face to face with Gear 5, he won't be fighting an ordinary pirate, but a phenomenon that defies the physics and logic he swore to uphold. In the current manga, we've seen Luffy turn Kaido into a jump rope and Kizaru into a throwing disc. If we apply that same logic to an encounter with Akainu, Ace's revenge becomes almost poetic. Luffy doesn't need to kill Akainu to avenge his brother. He needs to show that Ace's sacrifice allowed the world to witness the birth of someone Akainu will never be able to control. The humiliation comes from the fact that the Marine's most powerful weapon becomes a prop for Nika's amusement. Akainu's face, usually locked in barely contained fury, would likely crumble into complete disbelief when he sees that the magma which once pierced the chest of a Yonko and his son is now just molding material in the hands of a boy who refuses to be serious. Considering what we know about Devil Fruit awakenings, Luffy now has total control over his surroundings. That means that on a battlefield against Akainu, the lava-covered ground could be turned into an elastic surface that gives Luffy even more speed. The territorial advantage Akainu had against Aokiji on Punk Hazard completely disappears against Gear 5. Luffy can literally clean the magma out of the battlefield, or worse, send it back with twice the force using Nika's creative freedom. The revenge here is served with a heavy dose of irony. The man who prides himself on being the unstoppable force of justice discovers that he's nothing more than a static obstacle in the face of a power with no limits. Based on the manga's current power scale, a fight like this suggests that Akainu would have to push his haki and his awakening to their absolute limits just to keep up with Luffy's erratic movements. As Luffy now fights like he's in a classic cartoon where physics are just a suggestion. On top of that, there's the matter of Conqueror's haki. Luffy has reached a level where his very presence intimidates even the elders of the world. Akainu, no matter how powerful, is part of a system. Luffy is the one who breaks that system. The moment Luffy's eyes glow white and he releases his aura, Akainu would feel the same weight all of Nika's opponents have felt, the sense that their era is over. The humiliation isn't just physical, it's institutional. If the Fleet Admiral is utterly defeated by Dragon's Son, the very structure of the Marines collapses. And that's exactly what the manga seems to be building toward in its final stretch. Ace's revenge ends when Luffy looks at Akainu and instead of pure hatred, feels the joy of being free, which is the greatest possible insult to someone who lives to suppress that very freedom. Luffy doesn't need a bitter finishing blow. fueled by rage. He needs a gum-gum badrang gun that not only crushes his opponent's body, but buries the ideology of absolute justice deep beneath the earth. What makes this assumption so strong in the current scenario is how Oda is portraying the admirals. We've seen Kizaru, who used to be an untouchable force of nature, get tossed around like a toy. Akainu is certainly more resilient and has a far more aggressive will, but he's still bound by the rules of the real world. Gear 5 is One Piece's cheat code. Imagining Luffy wearing his straw hat while dodging lava projectiles with a dance-like pose is the ultimate picture of how this fight would play out. Akainu would try to use words, attempting to destabilize Luffy by bringing up the failure at Marineford, but Gear 5 Luffy is in a mental state where hateful words can't reach him. He is the warrior of liberation. He has freed himself even from his own childhood traumas so he can fight with his heart beating to the rhythm of the music. And relax, because this first part of our script is only here to establish that Luffy's strength today is a direct response to everything Akainu represents. This isn't just a fist fight, it's a clash between the rigidity of magma and the fluidity of divine rubber. Luffy humiliates Akainu simply by existing on a level of consciousness and power that the Marine cannot comprehend. Ace's revenge is achieved the moment Luffy proves that Akainu's fire of hatred is incapable of extinguishing the glow of the new era. Luffy's mastery of Gear 5 in a fight against the Fleet Admiral would close a cycle that began with tragedy and ends with a laugh echoing across the entire ocean, making it clear that no one else will have to die like that as long as the sun keeps shining. Now, we need to dive into the mechanics of the technical humiliation Luffy would inflict on Akainu. If in the first part we established the ideological clash, now the focus is on the physical and spiritual superiority that Gear 5 brings to the battlefield. Picture the scene. Akainu, the man who prides himself on having the devil fruit with the greatest offensive power in all the seas, throws his magma punch, Mego, the very attack that tore off part of Whitebeard's face. In the past, Luffy would have had to dodge or suffer massive collateral damage. But now, with Nika's awakening, Luffy could simply grab the magma with his bare hands, turning the boiling, molten substance into something solid and malleable, like modeling clay. The humiliation begins when Akainu's lethality is neutralized by creativity. Luffy could literally blow the magma back at the Admiral, or use it to create a giant, ridiculous sculpture in the middle of the fight. That would shatter Akainu's psyche in a way no ordinary punch ever could. For a man who believes strength comes from fear and destruction, being treated as a supplier of materials for a comedy show is a nightmare. The current manga has shown us that Luffy can interact with natural elements in impossible ways, like when he grabbed a lightning bolt during his fight with Kaido. If he can hold electricity, holding magma coated with Conqueror's Haki is just another Tuesday for the new Emperor. Another crucial point in this revenge for Ace is the use of the environment. Akainu is known for turning entire islands into volcanic hellscapes. In a final confrontation, he would try to suffocate Luffy with toxic smoke and rivers of lava. However, Gear 5 allows Luffy to turn the very air of the ground into rubber, creating trampolines of freedom. We would see Luffy bouncing between volcanic explosions with an agility Akainu, being a heavier, more static character, could never hope to match. The physical humiliation would be watching the Fleet Admiral punching empty air, while Luffy cracks jokes, appears behind him, yanks on his justice coat, and uses it to wipe the floor. That's the level of narrative disrespect Gear 5 enables. The hero isn't just fighting to survive, he's proving the villain is no longer a threat. And what about Haki? Akainu has extremely refined Haki, but Luffy has reached the peak. In the manga, Luffy has already shown that his observation Haki can clearly see the future, and his Conqueror's Haki flows outward without physical contact. In a fight driven by revenge, Luffy wouldn't need to throw 1,000 punches. A single well-placed blow, loaded with the will of everyone who suffered under absolute justice, would be enough to pierce Akainu's magma defenses. The final humiliation would be Akainu trying to use his Logia form to disperse, only to realize that Luffy's Haki locks him into his physical body, leaving him vulnerable like never before since he joined the Marines. Ace's revenge wouldn't be complete without a direct reference to what happened at Marineford. Imagine Luffy recreating the moment when Akainu tried to strike him, but this time, instead of Ace sacrificing himself, Luffy simply flicks the attack away, laughing at the futile attempt. It's a complete reversal of power. Luffy no longer carries the weight of trauma as a chain, but as a lesson learned. He honors Ace by becoming the man no one can burn. The look of pure terror on Akainu's face when he realizes that Dragon's son has become something beyond human something the laws of the Marines can no longer judge. That was today's content. We hope you liked it and want to share your opinion on the subject. Don't forget to share the video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and stay amazing.